You have choice. You have always had choice. What change can we be today? What action can we take to create a future of greater possibilities? Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast with your host, Simone Milasas. Welcome everybody to the Choice, Change and Action podcast. So you're with me, Simone Milasas, and I'm just going to show you, I know that if you're listening to the audio, you're like, what are you showing us? Because it's audio. Well, you're going to have to go to, I don't know, either maybe my Instagram or the YouTube channel, because I have a t-shirt on that says, I'm literally showing you my breast right now. It says, get happy and stay there. Okay. Get happy and stay there. So I put this t-shirt on for today because we're doing a bit of an unusual thing. And Melanie Meade, welcome Melanie, who I work with and is in Ireland. And I have a book coming out. I don't know when it's coming out. It's coming out when it comes out, just like a wizard arrives when a wizard is meant to arrive. And it's on happiness and on being happy. And we wanted to, Mel was like, I think we could fill this out a little bit with some more stories, etc. And I said, why don't we do a podcast on happiness so that we can get some copy? Now, hint, sidebar. This is a really, really good way to get a book out there, write an ebook or get an article or something like that you'd like to do is talk it out. Because a lot of the times, and this is a tool for business, a lot of the times people will ask me something, but if I've got no one in the room or no one there, I'm like speaking to an audience that doesn't exist at the moment, but is maybe something in the future, is not the easiest thing to do. It really takes a muscle. So for me, the way I've got Joy of Business book was my first book. Then I've got Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And then I've got Relationship, Are You Sure You Want One? And so the way that I wrote those three books was literally like from the classes that I did. I got transcripts from the classes and then, we wrote notes from that and then filled in different stories, etc. So it's a really good way to get something out there that you would like. So I would like to start putting together some ebooks. So they're like, short and snappy with access consciousness tools and hopefully changing people's lives by having these ebooks available. So this next one is on happiness and hence why we're doing this podcast. You're going to get something out of it as well as we're going to create, more with the ebook with it. So Melanie, take it away. You're interviewing me.
I know, no pressure.
And I have a glass of wine at the moment. It's my evening and it's your morning. So you might have coffee. Or you're Irish, you might actually have an Irish coffee. I've got a glass of wine. Been a long day.
Yeah, I'm only starting and I get to start by interviewing you in a podcast. So, how does it get any better than that? But I was saying too when I was first reading the transcript that was sent to me, it's been an interesting time. I think, we've kind of covered that a lot over the last couple of podcasts as well. But what I was saying too was you had a great life. Like in all your books and in your podcasts, you talk about, how you created your business, how you really wanted to travel the world, how you, even years ago when you were younger, knew that you wanted to live life different and not the way that everybody else was saying that, you'll come back to Australia and you'll settle down and all these good things. And then you end up traveling the world, meeting Gary and Dane, like creating a business that creates huge change in the world. You get out of debt, you have all these amazing things, and you're very happy with life. We're never without our moments, but you are very happy with life.
I am. You are correct. I am. I'm actually really happy. And I was just laughing because a few things that have occurred today. I was even pinging Gary Douglas at one stage, the founder of Access, and he was asking me something, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy." And he said, "I'm envious," and I went, "Of what? Am I happy?" I was like, "You can be happy too." And he was like, "I'm so weird right now," and I'm like, "I love it when you're weird because when you're weird, everything changes and everything expands, But yeah, you get to choose to be happy. And God, I have some days that are not so great, but the one thing that I'm really grateful for of Access Consciousness tools and myself is that I'll be like, oh, what am I loving about not choosing to be happy right now? Sort of energy, and it's like, you want to be cranky and angry and frustrated. And to me, that energy gets really boring and it takes a lot of energy to be like that. So a lot of the times I notice is I'll start to use the Access Consciousness tools so I can flip that around and choose something different. Like I know that you're mentioning about, these times that we live in. And yeah, you know what? Don't ignore it. It's there. And the other day, another friend of mine was pinging me, and I was saying, something about just how happy I was. I was just like we're in lockdown at the moment, and I was on my veranda, with the beautiful trees and the birds, and I was working on the veranda, and I was just really happy. And he said, I want to send you this video, but I don't want to send it to you. And he said, look, I watched it and it made me really angry. And it was about these police in Brisbane who, the video footage is there. They knocked down this older guy because he wasn't wearing a mask and arrested him, and he was having an asthma attack and blah, blah, blah. That whole sort of thing that is so common and way too common. You shouldn't be seeing that sort of shit going on. And he sent me the video and he said, look, you choose. And I watched it. And I watched it because I desired to educate myself as well. And I'm not looking to turn a blind eye, but I'm also not looking to create, I must align and agree with what's right or with what's wrong. I think both of those areas are just as bad as each other. What I'm looking to do is educate myself, and also I think the greatest potency you can have and be, which Dane here's been talking about in all of his classes recently, I'm so grateful, is being an allowance of what's going on. And being an allowance doesn't mean the acceptance. It's literally being an allowance. And I watched this video and I went, oh, okay, that took away a little bit of my happy, but also no one can take away my happy. Like, no one can truly take away my happy. Did it create more awareness for me? Yes. Did I gain something from it? Yes. Did it create more demand in my world that I be me even more so? Because, Melanie, I so get that when we choose to be us in totality, it's like there's a different possibility that can show up. I know you're interviewing me and I just keep talking, but I was getting my bars run today, which is an access consciousness hands-on process that we do, 32 different points on the head, and it starts to, delete all of these files. I'm going to say all these thoughts, feelings, and emotions that just go ping, 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 and then so that you can have like this blank slate and have a look at, what is your point of view? Like, what is your reality and where do you find it? Energy. Okay, what is your reality and where do you find it? And we were watching this show. I'm just going to find the name. Oh, it's called In My Blood It Runs, and it's if you look up inmyblooditruns.com, and it's about this Aboriginal kid and growing up in Alice Springs, but really coming from the bush and everything. It was so interesting to see the way the whites were treating him at school, but also the way the blacks were treating him at home, and it was sort of like reform, reform, reform. And you could see in this kid's eyes, he just wanted to be him. But there was this form and this structure of what was right and wrong being projected at him. And apparently, I haven't watched it yet, but apparently he's even gone to speak at the UN, this kid with his father, and about how he sees that different things that we should change and what we should stop. And he was so determined to be that. And I could feel this person running my bars getting more and more agitated, getting frustrated at what the disheaval that's going on in the world, right? Basically, that's the way to put it. And I went, hey, and I was like, what if you were an allowance of this and this was an interesting point of view, right? Not ignoring it, but we ask, what can we be that would allow all of this to change? What can we be that would allow us to create and actualize a greater possibility here on planet Earth? And I so get that energy of, I said, if you choose happy every day, no one can take that away from you. No one can take away your relationship with the earth. Whether you've got one plant in an apartment, in a small, in a big city or something, and that's all you have around you, or like me, I'm incredibly lucky. I have the beach across the road. I have these beautiful native trees and native birds and, lots of land and bush around me. I have that, and I have a zillion indoor plants, and I've discovered you cannot have too many indoor plants. And I have all of that, and it's such a contribution to me, but you get to choose all of this. It's like you really do get to choose that happy, and you get to choose the life that you have decided that you're not allowed to have, but you can have it. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of a long-winded description there of where you went, but that's
good.
How I roll.
I love it. But it's a great example, as you were saying at the start too, of like all of a sudden you'll find something and you've a lot to talk on, and then you'll start to realize all these amazing different things that are available. And when you were talking too, like when you were saying you get to be happy, other than deliriously laughing, like what is happy to you? Like most people
That's
think that it's
really,
the, you
yeah,
know,
no, thanks, Mel. That's actually a really good question because I think so many people have misidentified and misapplied what happiness is. And I know when you say, like, deliriously laughing, it's interesting because there was this person I knew who used to laugh at everything, right? This was years ago, like laugh at everything. And I always used to think, God, that person's so happy. Like they just laugh at everything and then they're really happy. And it took me quite a long time because somewhere in my world, I just wanted to go, oh, that's what it is. That equals happy. And then I'm wrong because I'm not deliriously laughing at everything. And then when I started to look at it all, and I was like, oh, she's not actually that happy. It's like, that's just this, like, it's sort of almost like this nervous reaction that she'll go into this, like, laughter out loud all the time. And so for me, being happy has such a sense of space to it. And I know when I say sense of space, some people are like, what the hell does that mean? To me, it's when there's no, porcupine spikes that you've got. You don't have these spiky bits that you're like, and you get like, upset or frustrated at anything. I've spent a lot of time on my own in the past 18 months and thoroughly enjoyed it. Some moments I'm like, wow, I'm spending a lot of time on my own, and also seeking it and enjoying it. And then I'm like, ooh, what sort of person am I becoming now? I don't want to hang out with people. Mel, I know you. You're like, I hear Simone. I hear sister. Mel likes to have a lot of time on her own as well. But what if that wasn't bad and it wasn't wrong? And like for me, a couple of years ago, I would never have said that I can cook. And one of the things I've learned is to cook. So one of the things that really makes me happy is cooking. Glass of wine in the kitchen, listening to a class, like an access consciousness class, or listening to music and cooking. It's like, to me, it's like I'm not laughing out loud. It's like I have me. I'm choosing something that I personally enjoy, and it brings me this sense of peace. Now, the other thing, like today, I was sort of back to back from, my 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I knew it was going to get busier in the afternoon as well. So I was like, I'm going to take myself to the beach because the beach is across the road. 40 minutes, and I was walking along the beach and it was pretty cold and I had a t-shirt on. So I had to like take my arms out of my t-shirt and tuck them under it. So I was walking along like I had no arms because I didn't want to go back and get a sweater. But, the water splashing around and the sand and the bush and, I was listening to a class, listening to Dane's Being New class, brilliant. And that makes me happy. It's like, but I can just as easily be, hanging out with a friend or friends. That makes me happy too. I guess it is really something to discover. And it's such a great question. And thank you for asking it. I get what makes me happy, and what I see where people do choose happy and embrace that is when you're choosing to do what works for you.
mm,
And I mean, like, if you are somewhere, say you are at a party with friends or gathering with friends, and then you're there for an hour, but you're done. I get the braveness you have just to go, hey guys, I'm super tired, I'm heading home. And then you go home, pour yourself a glass of wine and watch Netflix, whatever, because that's what you desire to do. Or you're the last one to leave because that's what you desire to do. It's like, what if being happy is choosing what works for you? And no matter what it takes and no matter what it looks like. And can I tell you, when you start choosing what works for you, you invite others to choose what works for them. And I think a great place that this comes down to too is it with family. I remember with my stepson Nash, and at one stage, I was choosing stuff, Brennan's choosing stuff, my ex, and I remember Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, said, when you choose for you, you show him that he can also choose for him. And I see so many parents stop choosing for themselves because they go, oh, now I have kids, I have to make it all about them. No, you don't. What if every choice you made includes them, includes everything? It's not choosing against, it's choosing what actually works for you. And I get that creates that happiness as well. Because then you don't have these expectations and these projections or this like, do I have to do this again? I mean, even to the point, I was making a joke the other day about, I remember with my stepson, and I used to say, how many times do you think you can feed them pizza a week before it becomes abuse? It's like,
Yeah.
you know what? It didn't make me happy to cook every night. It's like, but some nights it was. So it's like, all right, so what else can you choose? What else can you do? So I would say essentially it's like what actually works for you. Even I'm going to say moving your body. Like at the moment, in the past while, I've been doing a lot of Pilates. I really like Pilates. My body likes Pilates. I also like I like going for a walk, or I'm going to sneeze. Hang on. Oh, excuse me. There you go. Right in the middle of the podcast. Can't do anything about that one. And it's like, but asking your body what actually works for it. And because I might run for 3 months, not 3 months solid, that would be like more than Forrest Gump. It's like, but run as part of my day. And then I won't run for 6 months. It's like I'm in question of asking my body what movement it would like to, what it would like to choose. And even to the point of like, say you got to work out, but after 10 minutes, you can feel your body going, hello, we're done.
Mhm.
Following the energy with that, it's like creates that happy in you and every single molecule of your body, so that it's like, oh yeah, we're working together. So I think being in communion with your body makes me happy as well. And trust me, I fought that for a very long time of not being in communion with my body. And it definitely changes the energy.
Yeah. You brought up so much stuff. I have such a huge list in my head. It's like crazy. But the way what I said to you when I read the transcript too was like, sometimes I'm a little dramatic in my head. It was like, because I'm in Ireland and you're in Australia, we're both islands, and it was like we got deserted on like desert islands, and you're here, I'm in Ireland, and what happens is like, with your work, with your travel, everything changed. It was almost like for everyone, it was a bit of a universal experience. Things just got taken away for a while, you know what I mean? And we were really left with ourselves. And my God, if you didn't like you were going to be in trouble. And sometimes before any kind of restrictions came in for anyone, like we could go do something and distract ourselves, and all of a sudden you're left with you, and you have so little distraction anymore, you know. So what I was going to say is things like boredom would set in, or anger, or frustration, or you really start to notice that you don't like your life. Um and as I said at the start, for you, you were somebody that actually was really happy with your life. So what happens to a happy person? Like, you know what I mean? So you have a happy life, and were put in these situations, and you actually only get happier. How is that actually possible?
I'm gonna say honestly, it's using the access tools and being in question. Like I'm sitting in my office right now, and I remember coming home in March, and we had a bunch of classes on, so I was sort of like sleep class, like doing that. I'm home in Australia, and then after that finished, I remember sitting on my couch and just going. And then we were in I don't know, some lockdown, like whatever it was, after I'd done self quarantine, and I was like, oh. And that, what do I do now? And I literally sat on my couch going, huh. It's like I'm in my house, which I have barely had time to spend, and I love where I live. It's beautiful. And created a really great home and the location, all of that. And I was like, oh, I've hardly spent time here. So then what if I looked at what it is that I want to create here? And I think it's always sort of, I want to say upscaling.
Mhm.
Like instead of going to this place of, oh, what I don't have, what if you looked at where you're at and go, now what else is possible? I mean, I see the same thing. People do this with money. They'll go, oh, this is the money I don't have in my bank account, rather than ask that question of like, okay, so I have $10 or I have no dollars. Okay, what action can I take? I mean, the name of the podcast, choice, change, and action. It's like, what action can I take to upscale? I mean, even, I had a major, I say major just because it was a long-term relationship, breakup a few years ago. And even then, like now I'm like, God, I was standing outside with some friends the other day going, man, I'm so happy I live in this house on my own. I couldn't imagine the last 18 months if I had Brendan and my stepson in this house. It's like, there probably would have been death. It's like, all into this close proximity. But the thing is, so many people will sit in this place of, I'm a victim, or, oh my God, this happened to me. Nothing happens to you. You create everything. One of my favorite tools and one of my favorite questions in Access Consciousness is, how did I create this? If you ask that question, how did I create this? And then literally, what next? And I was talking to someone yesterday about how I never remember being bored. Like, even as a kid, I would be really grateful to, I'd say I'm going to go to my room to do my homework. And I do my homework because I was actually a good student. But I do a million other things as well, one of those things you do as a kid, write down the lyrics of songs and, because you couldn't Google it at that stage,
Yeah.
all of that sort of thing. I would always entertain myself. And I think I've always been able to entertain myself, but not based on, as you said, the distraction. I was getting distracted with my life before 2020. And I wasn't truly taking a moment to have a look at what it is that I desired. And one of the tools I know that we talk about in Access is 1 hour a day and 1 day a week to do something that nurtures you. And I've really been asking to put that into play, that at least 1 hour a day, 1 day a week to do something that nurtures you. You'll be really surprised at what shows up because most people go, oh, it's having a bath. It's like getting a massage. It's like, no, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like I enjoy writing. Sometimes it's writing or, I really enjoy the energy of looking at what I can choose today to create that matches the energy of a future. So I'll quite often like write some stuff down that I go, oh, what would it take for this to actualize to create this future? That's nurturing to me. It matches the energy of what it is that I would like. So I guess that's a longer answer. And the shorter way I'd put that is to, what if you could always upscale your life, like upscale everything, and come out of judgment? Man, that is like whatever you're judging is not going to create something greater. And the common things that people judge is their bodies, their money, their business, their relationship. And it's like, that's just a few. Anytime, if you look at what you're judging, has it created something greater? It never does. So what if one of the demands that you made to actually start waking up and getting happy and staying there was to come out of judgment and choose something different? Like, one of the things I always say is, this is your life. This is not a dry run. This is it. So what are you choosing? Do you like what you're choosing? And if not, what if you could change it?
Yeah. In theory, like it sounds simple. Do you mean get happy and stay there? It sounds like something. And actually, Gary said that to you years ago, didn't he?
He did. And he said it to me in New Zealand. We're at this 7 day event. And I was going about something, just being a little bitch. And he turned around to me. We're in this restaurant and he said, why don't you just get happy and stay there? And I did my little petulant, walk out of the restaurant. And it was on this big property and I was walking back to where I was staying and I went, get happy and stay there. And I'm really grateful that I will look at stuff. Like I won't just go, I'm right, he's an asshole, da da da. It's like I went, wow, get happy and stay there. And it went bling, bling, bling in my head and I was like, what the hell is that? And I was like, oh, what if I did choose to get happy and stay there? And, yes, it sounds easy, but it's not always easy. There's a lot of shit that comes up in life that you go, truly, how the fuck am I going to choose happy today? Well, that's a choice too, and it is like a muscle. Have very little patience with stupidity and slow. That's one of my things, right? Someone or some people or whatever, there's stupidity around or people are slow, I get really frustrated. So that is a muscle. I need to go breathe, Simone. If you get frustrated, is that going to change someone from being an idiot or change how slow they are? Nope. Okay, how am I going to handle it? Which is a great tool. How am I going to handle this? Sometimes, let you on a little secret, some meetings I'm in with people we work with, I give myself at least one other thing to do so I can amuse myself instead of getting frustrated with how much they'll just repeat the same thing. So I've learned entertain myself while I'm in a meeting. So how are you going to handle that so that you can actually create more allowance in your world and be happy with it? And can I add a question that Gary came up with the class a while ago, and I love it, is what's so funny about this? We're not laughing about it. Actually, we should call the podcast that. What's so funny about this? We're not laughing about it.
I know, I know. I was laughing at somebody recently because I do like a good giggle every now and then at things. And they were like, you're like the happiest person I know. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then one day they tried to check in if it was suppressed anger. And it just made me laugh because, like, no, I'm aware that, you know, like people do this whole suppressed anger thing too, but um that too, like, what's funny about this, you're not laughing at it. So to a degree, for me, sometimes it's almost like a natural reflex. I just kind of laugh at things now, and it actually dissipates things a lot quicker than actually getting really annoyed about stuff. I save that for when the big stuff comes, but it's amazing what laughter can actually do if you were willing to not kind of get caught up in like the frustration of it.
Yeah, and also I love that you like, clipped there on the suppressed anger thing too, because I think part of being happy is recognizing that sometimes I get fucking angry.
Mm,
Like I'm like I get annoyed and it's like, but that's okay, it's not wrong. It's like if you're gonna, I mean, I always say if you're gonna choose to be angry, enjoy it.
yeah.
Because when you get angry and you enjoy it, and it's just like, And I remember like one of the things that we talk about in Access is hate, blame, shame, regret. A lot of these things are distractory implants. There's a great book written. I can't, do you remember the name of it?
Going beyond distraction.
Going Beyond Distraction by Gary Douglas and Dane Heer. Brilliant book, right? And it talks about all the distraction implants. Now I know that hate is a distraction implant. And this one day I was like, I hate this person. And I'm like, I know it's a distraction implant, but I hate them and I'm enjoying it. And it was like 3 minutes and I just cracked up laughing afterwards because it was so dramatic. It was like this telenovela, like this, you
Yeah.
know, this series of just like, yeah, the drama. And then I was just like, oh, this is so funny because none
Mhm,
of it's real. But
mhm,
if you buy it as real, that's when it sort of, it starts to do that thing of destroying you. So, being happy is not always waking up with a smile on your face. Sometimes it's waking up going, what the fuck is this energy? And is this mine? Can I change it? Like, what the hell is going on? Oh, what am I going to choose right now? One of the tools I would use as well is and in that moment that I am having this like, whoa, it feels like the world is crumbling down upon you. My tool, go choose something different.
mhm.
I don't, if it's go make a cup of coffee or, go outside and water the plants, or even if I'm at my computer, start looking at a different project or
Yeah.
call someone or do something different because it'll just go flip you out of where you are as well to show you that there's other possibilities available. You don't need to sit in this stuckness. So, I'm not going to say like it's easy and it's not easy. Like it really is a muscle to be happy and to get happy and stay there.
Yeah. But things get
It's not just
greater.
about
Yeah.
wearing the t-shirt, okay?
I know, yeah. Some gentle reminder to yourself sometimes as well. But it does, like, life does get better and things don't, like, how would I put it? Like, as you were saying, like, there's things you will handle, but you'll handle them better. Like, you'll handle them from a space where, like, I love what you say, like, because I say the same when people ask me about happy. I say you have to be willing to let it out because sometimes we're trained not to say stuff because it's wrong. Like, I hate someone. As a kid, you're told, you can't say that. That's not nice. And you keep so much stuff in where I'm like, just let it out. Just say it. Say it. When I was young, and it's really funny, this is my memory of my dad used to work along the quays, by the river in Ireland, kind of where the port was. And I used to visit him at work. And one day I was standing in it's kind of like a big garage, and I was looking out, and there's this man across the road in a trench coat, walked along, and there's steps that go down into the water by the river, took off his trench coat, had just swimming trunks on, walked down the steps, went into the water, put his face in the water, and screamed into the water. I was like, Dad, what's he doing? And my dad said, oh no, he does that a lot. He's just letting his anger out. And he walked up the steps.
And it would be cold though too, wouldn't it? Like
Yeah, it's
freezing.
Ireland. Out his wet swimming trunks underneath and walked away. And my dad said, like, because working in the city, you might see kind of some unusual stuff. And he was like, yeah, he said that guy does that every now and then to just let his anger out. And
I
like,
love
it was like
it.
normal to him. It's something that always sticks with me. It's just one of those stories where just let it out. Like, that's my thing. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I would say sometimes when I get, and I wouldn't say angry, but it's just like this energy in myself that's like, rah, you feel like you could just blow up the world if you breathed fire,
yeah.
And one of the things I will choose to do is go running and listen to some music. Like my go-to would be something like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam, Incubus, something like that. That's got for me. I know there's more full-on music, but for me, maybe I'm showing my age there. it's got that music to me that I can run at this pace and just be like, yeah. But it's sort of like this, like, allowing myself to be that, like, woof, like a, like a stallion, just being like, oof, like, because we get like that, okay? Nothing worse than having someone, I'm sorry if I'm offending any of you right now, but having anyone who's like always hugging heart to heart and everything's okay. Because, guys, everything's not always okay. Sometimes life deals you some really fucking hairy shit. How are you going to deal with it, And it's like, so how are you going to handle it? It's like, what works for you, and choose that.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about that too, you talk about intensity, and sometimes people look at that as angry, but there's a creative and generative energy to intensity a lot of the times too, if you're willing to unleash it.
Well, I mean, you've worked with me for quite some time now, Mel, and it's interesting over the years, the amount of judgments that I've received from people that I find very interesting, because usually they've never spoken to me. They've never had a conversation with me. They might not have even met me, or they may have been in the same room as me, and then they have all these judgments. And over the years, what I've noticed is there's a lot of people who, when they actually start talking to me or something, they go, "Oh, you're not as scary as I thought you were."
Yeah.
Like,
I had somebody say that to me
all
too
right.
recently. You seemed unapproachable and something or other, and they're like, that's not the case at all. And what would you say to people, like, when you see that in someone else? So when you think somebody is unapproachable, or like a lot of the times we will hold back, like, so being somebody of what people say that about you, like, what do you say to people about that?
Look, be you. Like, honestly, it's like, and be willing to have anything. I mean, most people go to the, like, oh, what have I got to be around this person if they're quote unquote intimidating? Be you, whatever that is. Even if you stumble or fall, or you can't talk, or you talk too much, or whatever, it's just like, and then look at that. Just go, oh, sorry, I'm talking so much. I'm a bit, I'm intimidated by being around you. Oh, well, sorry about that. Whatever. It's
Yeah,
like, just be you. Like, you are not wrong, and you don't have to get it right.
yeah.
What, like, being you is one of the most attractive things in the world.
Mhm. Yeah. It's like you're talking about so many things that we could go down so many avenues in such great depth, but like,
Yeah.
I know, like, if people should come away with like three takeaways of today, because like we covered a lot, what exactly would you say would be like, if you started this today, like, you'd just give it a go and see what kind of how you get on.
Okay, so I love the way you just said if we started this today. Like, don't look at, oh, I'm going to choose happy tomorrow. It's so, look, some people it's easier for them than others. I will say that, because you will come up with all these reasons and justifications for why you can't choose happy. And I'm talking, you're going to go down this road of like, I'm a victim. There's violence. There's abuse. There's no money. There's whatever. And it's like, look at all of that. And what I would do is, like, one of so an access consciousness clearing statement we use is destroy and uncreate all the reasons and justifications you have for not choosing happy. And everything at that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Even write them down if you want, like 10, 20 things. Like, this is why you can't choose happy, right? And look at that list and go, this is bullshit. It's like, I'm using these as reasons and justifications not to be happy. I mean, recently I've looked at, in this 10 seconds, in this moment, when I go overseas to Mexico and Costa Rica in September, I have to come home through Sydney and do 2 weeks quarantine. I'm asking, what would it take, universe, for that to change? In this 10 seconds, though, that would be the deal. And I keep having this little, like, because I've had a little bit of claustrophobia over the years. Like, that's a real thing for me, sort of. So it's not something that I go, yeah, put me in a room with no window and no balcony. That's easy. I'm like, breathe. And so I keep asking, well, what would it take for it to change? What would it take to get a balcony? What would it take for all this? And then I was looking at this documentary on Nelson Mandela, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that man spent 30 years in this prison cell. And to me, that's helping me. I go, I got this. I can do 2 weeks quarantine in a hotel room if this man can do this. Like, if you're enjoying this podcast and have a question or topic you'd like me to address, please leave a review wherever you are listening. The best way for me to know what it is you want to hear about is to send in your questions, and we actually read all the reviews that come in. So let us know which episodes you loved and what you want to hear about next, right there in the podcast reviews. And thank you. Truly, truly grateful.